Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Discovery track for our poster presentation and presenter panel. Before we resume, I'd like just a quick word about the polls. In previous iterations of this meeting, the polls have been interactively launched. In this version of the platform, they are in a tab on the right-hand side of your screen. So you may go and fill out the information as you go along, during the talk or during the Q&A. So thank you for doing that, and then we will collect the results before the talk, before this part of the session finishes. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker for the Discovery track. Robert Fraczkiewicz is a research fellow at Simulations Plus, and Robert will share with us his most recent work titled S+pKa Predictor of Ionization Constants, Recent Progress and Results. Robert, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Eric. I hope everybody can hear me well. Let me advance to the next slide. So by now, everybody should have seen how old and ugly I am. So in order to save the network bandwidth, I'm going to turn my camera off and we'll resume after the talk. So let me present a bit of history first. Until 2012, okay, our S+pKa model, which was developed in its first version in 2005, okay? And for all this years, it's been trained on about 11,000 compounds extracted from published literature. And I will label this early model as version 6. And in 2012, we entered into an agreement with Bayer Pharma, okay, who shared with us an additional set of about 16,000 compounds with measured pKa. We added it to the first set, and resulting model labeled version 7 was trained on this data, and its predictions were also, not only prediction results, but also its details were published in 2005 in this paper right here. The version 7 model has shown dramatic improvements in prediction quality as evaluated by Bayer. Okay. They had 3 external test sets that were never part of any training and evaluated both version 6 and 7 models on those 3 training sets. They were arranged by average Tanimoto similarity to the set they shared with us, and so on. And in general, okay, you can see the paper for further details, but we have seen dramatic improvements in our favorite statistics is RMSE, but also in MAE and R². So you can take a look at that further. In addition, they also compared our old and new model against the competitor, the ACD Percepta version 12. And again, this was, apples to apples, right? Literature versus literature. We are about the same as ACD Percepta, maybe slightly better, okay? But after adding their representative sample of Bayer chemical space, they just errors dropped dramatically down, and essentially they were very happy about the performance. So now enter the modern times. Last year, we have 2 new industrial partners, both of them large pharmaceutical companies, and I label them as partner number 1, partner number 2. They have indicated inadequate coverage of their chemical space by the version 7 of S+pKa, and instead of just complaining, they have shared us with significant amount of experimental PK data, similarly to what Bayer did, extracted from their corporate databases. Partner 1 was very generous, provided about 19,000 compounds. Partner 2 was a bit less generous and gave us only 2,400 compounds. So for the few months of last year, we were busy rebuilding the S+pKa model with the new data appended to the original public, as Bayer said. The newest version carries the version 10.5 label. That I will use these labels in the further slides as indicators of what models are. Now, it is very important, okay, to see the relative coverage of the chemical space by different data sets. The coverage is illustrated here as a three-dimensional projection on the space spanned by three principal components of the molecular descriptors calculated by ADMET Predictor. The public data set is in blue, and the industrial sets are labeled green or colored green, yellow, and red, respectively. Okay, Bayer being green and so on. So as expected, the industrial sets overlap more or less, and all of them are quite distinct from the public data set. So this is principal component number 1 on this axis, and it's dominated by molecular size. So it's not a mystery, or it's not a secret that pharmaceutical compounds are on average larger than the small chemicals in scientific literature. Let me present it as a separate subset, public, Bayer, partner 1, partner 2. So, you can see that there are some corners of the chemical space that are covered by either set exclusively. Okay, so you can see quite a few very large compounds from partner number 2. There's some corner that is covered by partner 1, not covered by anybody else, and also public compounds are up here. So there are a few things that are different. Now, let me compare apples to oranges, version 7 versus 10.5 performance as measured on training and internal test sets. So in spite of adding thousands and thousands of compounds, we not only maintained the RMSE on both training and test, we made it even better. Okay, slightly better, okay, 4.75 or 4.68. So that's a good sign. So now let me talk about the external measures of the performance. This is the training data received from partner number 1. Version 7 RMSE was about 0.8. versus version 10.5 RMSE dropped to just halfway, right? 0.415. Well, no surprise here. Okay, these compounds were part of them were used as training compounds, part of them were used as internal test sets. So no wonder this has improved. Let me show you the same for data from partner number 2. Again, RMSE was about 0.8 for version 7. It dropped to 0.5 for version 10.5. So now let's switch to actually the truly external testing that was performed at partner number 1 site. The version 7 RMSE was about the same as previous compounds, slightly higher, 0.87. Whereas after testing the new model, the MSE dropped to 0.665, okay? Big improvement. Partner number 2, not so big improvement, but still, okay, their compounds were difficult, or must have been difficult. The test performed at their site, the initial RMSE for a large set of about 3,000 compounds was 1.1, whereas the new model dropped it by 0.2 to 0.98. So the chemical space covered by the newly trained S+pKa model has significantly expanded and improved. Same goes for prediction accuracy. Because partner number 1 was so generous, they reaped biggest rewards. Okay, the old saying, you reap what you sow is very true here. They also commented on the following. Okay, they found out that changing tautomers for some biggest outliers actually improve predictions. And we can discuss it further, but some of the tautomers have been found during the training of this model. Some of the tautomers have been found to be minor, okay? and the predictions have improved significantly after changing to the dominant tautomer for these compounds. The partner tool delivered much less data, and I'm not sure how much of their external stat set is represented in the data sets shared with us. Questions were raised regarding validity of some spectrophotometric measurements, and we are still waiting for the answer from both partners. And finally, here's a message from a little bird. In January, we have received thousands of PK data points from a brand new industrial partner number 3. And that's all I am allowed to say, but we keep busy in adding these compounds and rebuilding the model once again, so stay tuned. That's all from me. I'm ready to take on any questions. Thank you very much.
Great stuff, Robert. Thanks very much for this contribution. Very, very nice work. And, I find some of it even a little bit, counterintuitive. I mean, one could say, oh, if you have 20,000 compounds or more in a training set already, you've learned pretty much everything, that is out there to learn in terms of, training for pKa, and anything you do beyond that would be marginal. And that's completely wrong. I mean, clearly what you presented is proved that statement completely wrong. I mean, chemical space is very vast, and there are just new things to learn out there. So that's really interesting. I find that very, very interesting. I guess, one question one might have is, can you tell us what the most challenging aspect of model development is, maybe in general, but more specifically for the pKa model?
First of all, let me start with a less challenging aspect, but still very powerful, is the computing resources. The modeling is very computer time intensive, and one has to dedicate a lot of CPU power to this model. Mm-hmm. But the most challenging aspect is data curation. Mm-hmm. I'm not just dropping the data and start building models, start pushing buttons. Okay, that would result in a really bad model. In the process of checking the data and actually evaluating the validity of the data, I have discovered quite a few compounds in either data set. All 4 data sets, actually 5 now, In all 5 data sets, I have discovered a number of so-called suspicious data points. For example, compounds that had no ionizable groups were presented to us with a pKa value, which is very strange, right? Why would such a compound be considered as ionizable is anybody's guess. The spectrophotometric measurements, as you know, maybe not everybody realizes that, but you cannot measure pK directly with spectrophotometric measurements. Okay? What you do, you measure spectra. And then you extract pK value computationally. You essentially fit pK value to the spectra. Now, the biggest problem in this process is guessing the correct number of pKa's. You know, as you know, you can perform data fits with any number of parameters, and it's very easy to over-parameterize those fits. So you may enter more pK values than there really are. Okay? They really are in the expected range, okay, which is usually between 2 and 12. If you enter more pK values than there really are, then you get a good fit. Okay, no problem. The fitting algorithm will happily perform its task. But what you get are ghost pKa's that are not reflected in reality. You get too many. Slightly less probable is also a problem of under-parameterizing this experiment. So, you know, guessing the number of pKa's is a very important part of this process. And I found a number of compounds that did feature ghost pKa's and so on. So that's what I meant by problematic data.
Indeed, very, very challenging. So I'll mention in passing that there was an interesting book chapter that was published about 3 years ago or so by two of our scientists, Pankaj Daga and Bob Clark, about sort of good practice in model building that involved a number of tips in terms of data curation, etc. And Robert mentioned, of course, data curation as being essential, but as you heard, there are also some challenges that are more specific even to the pK model building. So thank you, Robert, for this great poster presentation.